Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, in the aftermath of the coordinated attacks or strikes by the United States and the Zionist State of Israel on Iran's nuclear sites and its scientific leadership, the nuclear debate has reignited with explosive intensity. The world stands at a precarious junction. Diplomacy tatters on the edge as shadows of wars, misinformation and geopolitical hypocrisy threaten to unleash irreversible chaos in the Middle East. We ask the unspoken. Is a nuclear Iran is now inevitable? Whether the nuclear arms race is going to be inevitable in the current scenario, with the International Atomic Energy Agency urging negotiation, global powers divided, and the myth of destroyed facilities unraveling. We dissect the truth behind the headlines. Is Iran actually defending its sovereignty or walking towards the very weapon it once renounced? Why no inspection of Israeli nuclear facilities and weapons of mass destruction, which most of the experts say it's around 200? Why not Middle East be declared as a nuclear-free zone, which once Iraq and Iran suggested it back in 1974? Why lots of hot questions remain unanswered? We will try to get answers of some of these. We have in our studios Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid. He is the strategic affairs expert. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence here. And Dr. Tauqeer Sargana, he is the assistant professor of international relations at the International Islamic University, Islamabad. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence. My first question to you, Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid, that what do you think that after the US and illegitimate state of Israel's belligerent attacks on Iran's nuclear sites and murder of many eminent Iranian nuclear scientists, is there any room left for negotiations with the United Nations nuclear watchdog IIUI and its Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi just written a letter to the Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi to propose a meeting, urged cooperation and negotiations on the Iran's nuclear program after the ceasefire?
Yes, it is rather unfortunate that Israel and United States of America negotiated or talked to Iran on whatever issues that they were having in the language of bombs and killing machines. It's very unfortunate because international community has given them no authority to pursue the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons on international community's behalf. I mean, if we want the international system to continue, that any state can stop any other state from doing whatever it wants to considers fit for its nuclear or safety and all that, then we are ending nowhere other than the chaos and tragic chaos at that. After whatever has been done by these two countries against Iran, Iran still retains the option of pursuing the interests that it sees fit for its national interests. Okay, as far as their kind of effort to roll back or destroy the Iranian capability is concerned, the opinion within these countries is divided. They say that they have not been successful in really, obstructing or constricting the Iranian capacity, maybe by few months and all that. So Iran still retains the capability that it can start its program, what it calls peaceful nuclear civilian program at any time.
Your point well taken, Ghulam Mujaddid sir. Dr. Tauqeer, Iran's two major nuclear facilities like Fordow and Natanz, which Zionist state actually claimed that those were damaged in the first ever attack on June 13th, 2025. But the ground report suggests otherwise, that an apparent infrastructure damage, not the actual one, but overall both facilities were actually intact. Then the US attack on June 22nd, 2025 through B-2 Spirit bombers and the GBU-57 bunker buster bombs deep beneath the ground and claimed that the nuclear Iran gone. But now the US on intelligence assessments, initial intelligence assessments actually tell that all facilities are again intact. What's the reality?
Thank you very much, Faisal, for having me. Actually, the situation regarding Iran's nuclear infrastructure is navigating between reality and a fiction at the moment. If we have to see that starting from 13th June 2025, when Israel launched its preemptive strikes on Iran's nuclear installations along with some other key officials as well as defense system of Iran, they claimed that Natanz and Fordo, two facilities have been targeted and they have been neutralized. So Iran will not be able to continue its civil nuclear program anymore. And subsequently on this 22nd of June, the United States through B-2 bombers have also launched an attack which also claimed that the Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan facilities have been neutralized, and Iranian capability and capacity to continue with civil nuclear program has been not only contained, but they will never be able to ambitiously continue their nuclear program.
Isfahan facility is largely at the surface basically.
Yes, yes.
That's why they actually targeted it with the cruise missiles from their Ohio class nuclear attack submarine.
Exactly. So, so within that pretext, if we have to see the ground realities assessment as well as International Atomic Energy Agency satellite imagery and some intelligence reports are suggesting that that is not the case. Iran's Natanz and Fordo, which is more fortified, facility, they have been damaged to a context, to an aspect which cannot contain Iranian civil nuclear program. So which is why it's a kind of tactical success for Israel and United States of America, but a strategic failure in a broader context, that their ultimate objective to neutralize Iranians' capability and technical credentials were not achieved through these attacks. So which is why there is some subjective debate going on, because when I see that what's happening in the media in the United States of America and what kind of statements are coming from US President as well as the Israeli Prime Minister, these are more of a political rhetorics rather than connected with a kind of political reality on ground. We also need to understand that, of course, Iranians would never be able to come forward and clarify that what happened on ground, but on the kind of technical assessment by the strategic experts who deals with the weapons output at the end of their objective, why they were being dropped and what kind of objective they have achieved. I think the experts are not convinced that the Israeli attacks on these facilities as well as the US attack on 22nd June, they failed to achieve their military
intended
objectives.
military objectives,
Exactly.
whatever they have right now. So, Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid, is it correct that before the US attack on Iran's nuclear facilities was largely symbolic? Iranians knew that or informed earlier through the third party that attack on the nuclear site is inevitable, and that actually helped Iran to shift its enriched uranium pellets. I'm not talking about centrifuges, because most of the people call it the centrifuges were actually relocated, but it's a very difficult job, you know that. And some other sensitive equipment from Natanz and Fordo to a safer location. Then it's clear that despite of the several nuclear scientists murdered by the Zionist regime, knowledge base is actually intact. Other research and the uranium enriched sites are also operational. So how do you see this whole scenario?
Yeah. I think this talk of prior information and kind of a choreography is overstated. I believe that America belligerently attacked Iran, and the strategic sense of Iran would have made Iran remove all that was to be removed from these facilities much before even the war started. You know, countries are foreseeing, they know what is coming and where it is coming. So saying that America told to remove and everything in this thing, I don't think it is overstatement. America, and it seems as if probably there was some kind of a consensus between the two belligerents, although the America went for the very soul and body of Iran by attacking it with those bombs and claimed very victoriously that they have used for the first time a thing that that had never been used or something. So I believe that Iranians, like any other nation, were cautious enough, they were kind of planners enough to remove those facilities from wherever they expected the attack. So I don't think that that is the case. This thing that how far it has been successful, I agree with the assessment that you gave. I don't think that they have been able to do to cause that much of damage that you know the Iran program would stop. It will not. The damage is there, but it is quickly repairable, and they have their knowledge base, their scientific prowess. That no matter how many scientists have been killed, and they have not been killed in this attack. For the last 25 years, Iranian scientists, nuclear scientists, have been targeted by Mossad, you know, blatantly.
Yes.
And not only in Iran, but in other countries also, and within Iran more so and something. But this is not to deter. If Iran were an organization, well, it is enough, because organizations cannot face these things. But nations and determined nations who are working for their existence and interest, they can face anything.
Definitely, so you are absolutely right on that account. Dr. Tauqeer, why what US Director of the National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, categorically said on 25th of March 2025 that US intelligence community continuously assessing that Iran is actually not building the nuclear weapons, and Iranian leadership had not authorized the nuclear weapons program, which he suspended actually, I mean here, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, in 2023. Then why the President Trump negated and attacked? Is it just to rescue Israel or ignite another unending conflict within the Middle East or anything else, right?
There are multiple facets to this particular scenario, because on the one side, the intelligence assessments were suggesting that Iran is not developing a nuclear weapon, and subsequently after 2003 they have not found any credible evidence that the Iranian leadership has sanctioned the program, civil nuclear program, towards the military orientation, which can end up into developing nuclear weapons. So not only the assessment of intelligence assessment of CIA, but also International Atomic Energy Agency reports also suggest that the Iranian were not developing nuclear weapons. But on the other side, the executive action of the United States government creates a dilemma situation here, because now there are geopolitical dimensions part of this decision. Also, there is some domestic politics of the United States, which is part of that. And thirdly, United States strategic relations with Israel that is based on decades, commitment to its safety and security and defense. So all these dynamics are suggesting that there is a kind of disconnect between the intelligence assessments as well as the executive action done by the United States of America. We have to understand that Israel has made a case multiple times, not only against Iran, but it has been making case against Iraq as well. And we have seen that any state which is taken over, or whose rightful right of self-determination in terms of national sovereignty, in terms of national integrity, has been undermined based on geopolitical considerations, the results are terrifically volatile and vulnerable for the safety and security of any region. We have seen that Iraq is, after the instability of Iraq, there is no more stability one can deemed in terms of a future of that region. We have seen that, look at Ukraine, once it was having the second largest nuclear stockpile, after the Soviet disintegration. But in 1994, when the Budapest Memorandum of Understanding or Memorandum of Security Guarantees were signed, and we can see how Ukraine is suffering in terms of security, vulnerabilities, and a kind of situation which they cannot handle alone. They need international cooperation, and the way international cooperation is coming forward them, it is more exploitative rather than a genuine commitment to Ukraine's security. So Iran's rightful and peaceful orientation towards civil nuclear program has been very much appreciated by all international forums throughout their conduct. At some points they were reluctant to disclose some of their facilities, but of course they ended up into JCPOA, and also they respected their commitments with the International Atomic Energy Agency as well as Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. But we have seen that all these internationalization of Iran's commitment were sabotaged by Israel's manufacturer's deliberate orchestration of its own regional objectives. So which is why I believe so the professionalism within the intelligence assessments have been taken over by the political rhetorics, which are geopolitical, which are more regional.
And that is the real unfortunate thing, because one profession must have to be intact to its own boundaries rather than to indulge into any other, because that actually creates real-time troubles. And we have witnessed that these troubles actually converted into the conflicts, really. Viewers, we have now joined Professor Dr. Tughral Yamin. He is the ex-Associate Dean of the Center for International Peace and Stability, CIPS, at the National University of Science and Technology. Thank you very much, Dr. Tughral, for being with us online. My question to you is that although Iran had never desired to attain nuclear weapon capability since Islamic Revolution, and even Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei endorsed it in 2003 through a decree, put ban on the developing of the nuclear weapons or any sort of weapons of mass destruction, put this now after Israel and the United States belligerent attacks on Iranian nuclear sites. There is a serious thinking that now on, nuclearized Iran is the only solution to protect sovereignty and integrity. That is the vibe straight away coming from Tehran right now. Here, after the US-Israeli misadventure, program might delay, but Iran might pursue atomic bomb. Is it so?
You are absolutely right. I would again try to draw a comparison with the political statements coming out of the United States and the intelligence assessments. Both are different. Similarly, the political statements that come out of Tehran, which are from the office of the supreme leader or rebel, they are different, and what is happening on ground is different. I would suggest that Iran has a nuclear program. It is not just for peaceful purposes. And that is the reason for worry for the Western countries, right or wrong. I'm not saying that it is right what they're doing. They have already tried to attack their centrifuges through Stuxnet virus, which set back Iran's nuclear program by several years. And the JCPOA also aimed to delay Iran's nuclear bomb. The word that was being used then was breakout time. That perhaps Iran has a breakout time, that is to say, manufacture a bomb, which could have been then 10 to 12 years, which was during Trump's first presidency. So it's correct that the clergy has been issuing fatwas that the bomb is un-Islamic, but something is being developed, because you don't need fissile material to be enriched up to 60% only for peaceful purposes. And the reason for the West's worry are not totally out of place. What they're doing is wrong, absolutely wrong. They are violating the international norms, but they've been doing it. You see, they have destroyed the Ozark nuclear facility of Iraq in 1981, 7 June 1981 to be precise. And they also destroyed Syria's nuclear power plant in 2007, 6 September to be precise. And both these times, Israel was let off light. Although again, it was wrong. They said we are doing it for self-protection, in self-defense. They invented a new doctrine. So they are wrong to do what they're doing, and it's absolutely right. This is perhaps the end of the uh, global architecture of non-proliferation. Most possibly, Iran will leave NPT, and if it leaves NPT, then it will develop nuclear weapons openly, which perhaps now they were doing. Perhaps I cannot be judge on this. They were doing it covertly, but now they will do it overtly because they have also understood that had they had the nuclear deterrence in place, neither Israel nor the United States of America would have dared attack them. So it's a it's a very difficult situation, a dangerous situation. If Iran openly starts pursuing its nuclear weapon program, then there would be an arms race in this region, and nobody can then stop the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, even countries like Turkey or Egypt to go for the
So,
nuclear.
Dr. Tughral, there is one fact and another anomaly. One fact is that it's an historical aspect that one declared nuclear power, the United States, another undeclared covert nuclear power, that is Israel, and they attack a non-nuclear country, Iran. But some of the reports, this is the anomaly now, as you have rightly pointed out about the 6% of the uranium enrichment, what the International Atomic Energy Agency, the Western countries, the United
60%.
States, Israel, and all other actually depicting that there were actually, Iran has actually approximately 400 kg of the uranium right now, that is enriched uranium, which was, according to International Atomic Energy Agency, nearly 60% of the uranium is enriched and still safe. So do you think that Iran is now going to negate the international order or the international treaties, particularly NPT, and they are super swiftly, they are going to attain this nuclear weapon, which is, they consider right now that if they don't have in future, that their sovereignty and integrity is going to be at stake?
Ehsan Saab, if I was sitting in Tehran and if I was part of the political or military leadership, I will say to hell with nuclear non-proliferation treaty, go for the bomb. This is the lesson that we have learned in these 12 days of intense missile firing on our facilities. So I think they'll go for the nuclear bomb, right or wrong, religious fatwa or no religious fatwa. They will engage politically with the rest of the world for the time being, but they will try to control the damage that has been done to their nuclear facilities. And we know that the intelligence assessments that are coming in, that the wild proclamation by Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu are not exactly right. They have not been able to destroy their nuclear facilities. They have been able only to damage them. And you can, if a country wants to have a weapon, it will have that weapon. And if it considers that it is really necessary for their survival, they will go for it. International diplomacy notwithstanding, the IAEA notwithstanding, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty notwithstanding, they will go for the bomb. And I fear that this is going to be the end of the international non-proliferation regime. It is not going to survive this attack because there have been deaths, casualties, destruction on both sides. Israel has also suffered massive losses. There's massive panic within Israel, and Iranians are also wary. They don't want missiles to be raining down on them again. And if they really have a nuclear weapon program, they would be worried that there might be uh, spread of nuclear radiation on their soil, which is not a good prospect because radioactivity can render the soil toxic and you cannot grow anything over there
Definitely.
for not for a year or 2 years, for thousands of years. So these are the problems associated with a nuclear program.
Very right, Dr.
program.
Tughral, very right. Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid, sir, international community, International Atomic Energy Agency, China, Russia, and even Gulf states warning all parties not to attack Iran's nuclear site at first when this whole conflict started. But Israel and the United States didn't care on all these calls. Now Israel continuously threatening Iran again, even during this ceasefire. That it will attack at any Iranian nuclear facility, any site, and if Iran will pursue this nuclear weapons once again, or even the enrichment, if Iran resume the nuclear ambitions. Do you not think that now, because of illegitimate state of Israel, Iran's nuclear program is a constant existential threat for entire region regarding possible radioactive leaks, as Dr. Tughral is also cautioning about? And if Israel will do it again, would it be not a grave disaster in the region, number one? And the second is that why not Israel halted by the international community? Because Israel is also a danger for the entire region when it's not caring about this sensitive matter like the nuclear aspect.
That is actually the unfortunate part of the international system that we are living in. You see, as Dr. Tughral pointed out, we have this nuclear non-proliferation treaty, which is an arrangement by the international community that the nuclear weapons must not proliferate. So for that we have rule based on diplomacy, negotiations, persuasions, arguments, and peaceful means to ensure that the horizontal, whatever has been made, and the internationally recognized legally, there are only 5 states that are supposed to have the nuclear weapons. Rest all states, because of the NPT, are not supposed to have nuclear weapons, but they can use the nuclear technology for peaceful purposes.
Definitely.
So this is the nuclear non-proliferation regime, and this is the very pivot of the international system that exists today. What Dr. Tughral points out, or what is the unfortunate outcome of this, whatever Israel is doing and United States of America, that they are pursuing as against non-proliferation, counter-proliferation policies. Counter-proliferation means that you stop the spread of nuclear weapons or nuclear capability by military means. And once you do that, it's not Israel who's endangered or Iran who's in danger. You know, it's like a nuclear explosion. The chances that there will be some kind of a, nuclear kind of explosion, radiological, dispersion and all that, which will endanger the whole region and the globe as a whole. And at the international level, if this becomes the norm, today Israel is very strong. Tomorrow, maybe some X country can be as strong and with atomic weapons and stops Israel. Okay, you please, you stop your weapons. International,
through the military means,
whatever means. So military means, yeah. So it can. Is it possible? No? Because now they are themselves initiating a regime that these nuclear weapons have to be stopped by military means. So
because now Israel, the illegitimate state of Israel, is also vulnerable because the myth of its invincibility is now ended.
That is so. I would tell. I mean, if it is not something very emotional, but I wish Israel attacks again Iran and sees for itself what will happen to it.
And not seek the help of the United States. So this is going to be, because solely we have seen that Israeli, even
United States, I think Iran is on a strong moral grounds. Iran can leave NPT, and NPT has a provision. Its Article 10 allows states who are party to NPT to leave NPT for the reason of their supreme national interests. Iran's supreme national interests and security interests have been violated. They have been infringed very badly by the so-called this Israeli state and the Americans, and Iran is fully justified to leave the treaty and then start to build the bomb, and this is what will disintegrate the whole of peaceful nuclear non-proliferation regime, because Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, everybody will then say, okay,
Definitely,
like
definitely. But Dr. Tehseen, Dr. Tauqeer, I'm calling you Tehseen once again, so I'm so sorry for that, really.
It's a good name.
Why the world is after only Tehran or Iran, when Tehran intends to use its nuclear capability only for energy, medicine, agriculture or others, not only under the strict regulations of non-proliferation treaty, but also ready to give any sort of a guarantee to any state for peaceful uses, but definitely not for proliferation or to develop nuclear weapons, and even intends to restrict itself from assessing any specific or the dual use technologies. So Iran is very clear in its stance. So why only Iran?
It is not only Iran. Before Iran, we have seen the same contextualization of North Korean nuclear program. We have seen that there was a long campaign against North Korea.
But most of the people call it that North Korean leadership is a bit jobless right now.
So of course, they are becoming
total
irrelevant.
Focus on this Middle East
exactly.
region, really.
So, but if you remember that in early 90s, North Korea, because North Korea was member of NPT, and under Article 10 of the NPT, a country can come out of the treaty under the exceptional circumstances and challenging their national security concerns. So they can come out of, so there is no written thing on that, but the understanding is that after 3 months of the withdrawal notification or the letter which has been given to all NPT member states, so the country would be considered out of the treaty. So, but at that time, the international pressure, I think the pressure from the Chinese side did not allow North Korea to come out of the treaty. But in 2003, we have seen that North Korea came out of the treaty, and in 2006, they detonated their first nuclear test. So the same is now coming towards the Middle Eastern side. So it's more of a paradox within the global nuclear politics. We have to see in that context, which I just referred from the North Korean side. It's more of a geopolitical distrust, not an issue of technical assessment of wrongdoing of Iran, because we know that Iran is categorical in terms of extending its installations towards international atomic energy agencies, safety, security and safeguard protocols. Even they have signed additional protocols of the International Atomic Energy Agency. We also know that earlier in early 2000, Iran did not, they concealed actually Natanz and the Fordo facilities, but later on they declared it, and they
earlier sometime, but soon after, those were available for inspection.
For inspection. Under Article 4 of the NPT, they within the bracket of the International Atomic Energy Agency, they can go for the use of civil nuclear program.
Definitely.
Mentioning for
right.
that.
Very right. Very
so
right.
all these dynamics actually highlights the other aspect, which is more of a regional political dynamics. Because if someone has a capability, it can go, politically speaking, any time to detonate or after withdrawing from the NPT. We have seen in 1974 when the then Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, so-called Smiling Buddha or Shakti 1, that they detonated. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was very much concerned about that action, and Indira Gandhi wrote a letter to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto that they don't have any intention to develop nuclear weapons. And Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, after publicly rallying and developing a more robust stance within the people's public opinion, and then he responded to Indira Gandhi that it's not a matter of your intentions, it's a matter of your capability.
Obviously.
But if you got the capability, later on you will come up and you can decide anytime that you are going to develop nuclear weapons. So the same way, I believe so, the Israelis and the Western geopolitical distress is lying on that particular capacity of Iran, which is more than the peaceful enrichment process. Is beyond 20%. We also know that there are reports and credible reports that Iranians have already enriched the fuel, which is 60%. So for the weapon grade, they need to go to 90%.
There is a lot of exaggeration as well in most of the investigative reports, unfortunately. Although lots of monitoring systems were already installed by IAEA in different facilities of Iran. So, Dr. Tughral, when Iran was actually complying with the International Atomic Energy Agency fundamental principles and protocols, have facilitated more than 15 visits of the UN nuclear watchdog inspectors. IAEA installed their monitoring equipment at Natanz, Fordow and other nuclear facilities, then agreed upon the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action in 2015, and IAEA was the part of it, including all other members, the UN permanent UN Security Council members, the 5 members, and then the Germany, European Union and IAEA, all were the part of it. But unfortunately in 2018, in the first term, President Trump was withdrawal from that JCPOA agreement, and then actually Iran was serious in talks, in indirect talks, in negotiations going on in Oman, and just at the doorstep, the 6th round was going to be held when actually Israel initiated the attack against Iran. That was so then why such belligerent actions are only targeted towards Iran rather than to take Israel accountable as well?
Question of mindset. The Western strategists, policymakers think that Iran poses a challenge or existential threat to Israel through its actions, through the proxies that it has been maintaining in the Middle East, and that they have the capability, secret capability to go nuclear anytime. So despite engaging with them, despite the IAEA carrying out inspections, they really never believed them. If you care to read the national strategy papers that have been coming out from the White House and the Department of Defense, you will see that they've been calling Iran outliers, that they are not part of the international system. They have the capacity to defy the international system as they see it, the rules-based system as they see it. So this has always been the case during the Cold War, despite the fact that the Soviet Russia and the USA had signed bilateral treaties, SALT I, SALT II, and START. They never believed each other. They never believed each other, and they were always trying to rehearse war games, etc., in which the Soviets were doing or were capable or would actually carry out nuclear strikes against the United States of America. So despite all the treaties, obligations, despite the hotline that the American president and the Secretary General of the Soviet Communist Party, they always distrusted each other. They were always ready to misconstrue the smallest movement as a bid to attack them. So is the case with Iran. They don't believe Iran. Iran may bend over backwards in trying to prove its innocence, but they will not believe it. Israelis will not believe it. Jews think that Iran wants to destroy Israel, and perhaps it is borne out by statements also being issued from Iran in which they have been castigating Israel and the United States of America. Trump himself in his speech says, no more death to America, no more death to Israel. So they are quite piqued by the rhetoric of
Dr. Tughral, sir, Iran is the signatory of nuclear non-proliferation treaty under Article 4. Treaty does grant all parties the right to develop and use nuclear technologies, nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. Also encourages international cooperation in this field. Even Iran agreed uranium enrichment ratio under the JCPOA was only 3.67%. Already surrendered 96% of the possible uranium enrichment. then Iran's ideology, actually driven principle, that stance that is very important, was not to pursue the weapons of mass destruction and nuclear weapons among them as well. Then why a peaceful nuclear Iran is not in favor of the world? Just due to the proxies, or because of Israel, as you have rightly pointed out, that considers Iran a threat for its existence and a hurdle in Abraham Accord?
Essence of, very frankly, Israel considers Iran threat number one. And if I was sitting in Tel Aviv in their planning room, the hypothesis one would be Iranian nuclear bomb, which has been manufactured and which is ready to be launched against Israel. That would be their foremost hypothesis. As a former military officer, I can tell you that. And again, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty is not a very balanced treaty. There is an article in which it is said that all nuclear weapon states will disarm themselves of their nuclear weapons in good faith. Well, that has never happened. And none of the nuclear weapon states has ever tried to apply that particular clause on themselves. So NPT is an unfair treaty. And that is exactly the reason why Pakistan never signed it. Pakistan knew that, one, India has not signed it. And secondly, they knew that if we signed the NPT, we would be forsaking our latitude, our right to develop nuclear weapons for self-defense, not for offensive use, for deterrence. So that's why Pakistan, all Pakistani political leaders, military leaders, irrespective of the political parties that they belong to, have been very straightforward.
Tughral sir, now we have witnessed and seen through different media outlets that there are petitions, there are public opinions. Now the people are signing lots of papers that Iran is now building a consensus across the whole nation, that now Iran is thinking very seriously to get out of NPT. And as our panelists suggested and said, that even the treaty itself gives the right to any nation to get out of this treaty. So do you think that now Iran is going away from NPT, and obviously they have a very strong thinking of building the nuclear weapons, and this is going to be a real disaster and a start of different NPT signatories to reconsider their approach, and this treaty and along with lots of other treaties are going to be very fragile for in future particularly?
Essence of June 2025 is going to go down in human history as the year when the nuclear non-proliferation regime unraveled. This is the beginning of the end. Either there is another treaty, either there are parties who can in good faith control the offensive use of nuclear weapons. Otherwise, the present regime is going to, I think I can see the expiry date on it. And as you said, and as many of my fellow panelists agree, that this is going to be a disaster for the human civilization. If everybody starts developing nuclear weapons, and if everybody has the capability to launch a nuclear missile, then that would be the end of the human civilization. It will be horrible. It will be horrible. But that's how I foresee the world going.
Your point well taken, Dr. Tughral. Thank you very much for being with us online. Thank you very much for your contribution as well. Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid, Defense Minister Khwaja Asif said that world should be very apprehensive about Israel's nuclear prowess. A country not bound by any international nuclear discipline, not signatory to NPT or any other binding agreement or arrangement. And it's very right that an illegitimate state of Israel with hegemonic and nefarious designs across the West Asian region, having Greater Israel Plan, number one, imposed war against 6 sovereign states recently and occupied many countries' territories with having international backing, unfortunately, devastating international law and the proliferation regimes as well, out of the IIUI ambit completely. Why not to rein in this illegitimate state of Israel on nuclear aspects?
Thank you very much for this very great question. As a state, Israel might have some justification, but as the action that Israel is taking, and you have very elaborately, and Khwaja Sahab has pointed towards that, they are highly destructive and cataclysmic for the humanity as a whole. Okay, once we dwell into this subject, let me, if with your permission, talk of a theory or international stature academics. What do they think about nuclear weapons? And that is the remedy for states like Israel. There is a very strong academic theory that most of the states must be allowed to have nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are good for peace, because if most of the states will have nuclear weapons, you can yourself imagine that there will be stability and peace, because nobody would like to take any chance in that manner. Nobody will behave like Israel for that matter. So this gives a justification in this manner at the theoretical level also, that nuclear weapons might be good for humanity, because without nuclear weapons are not good, and there is a state, illegitimate state, as far as the nuclear weapons are concerned.
As one of the US president has given that atom for peace.
That was long time back, but that was not, that atom was peace was on which the nuclear non-proliferation treaty is based. That nuclear technology for peaceful purpose is the right of every nation on this earth. But we are talking that there is a theory, we don't despise nuclear weapons, especially under these circumstances, that there is a state, it can do whatever it feels like to the whole world. So let others also have nuclear weapons, so that once most of the states will have nuclear weapons, probably there will be more stability and peace.
But there is another anomaly as well, that most of the people call it that if every state has the nuclear weapons, it means that destruction is going to be inevitable.
Yes.
So if one starts it, and that will be the result of result across the world.
So it will not be started. That means it so far the states, the world has capability to destroy itself 8 to 10 times over.
Yes.
At this present time.
Yes.
Now, if every state has a nuclear weapon, the same rationale will prevail. That is why they say that let others also have nuclear weapons, so that this is curtailed.
I love to have this academic session so on, so long and so on. So Dr. Tauqeer, West, including the United States, intends to snatch nuclear technology from Iran. That is the right course, or might be the real purpose of all of the actions. Just like Libya and Ukraine, you have earlier given us example of 1994, and we all know that what happened to them afterwards. It's inevitable. You know that what happened to Libya and what's happening right now to Ukraine. Even West proposed that the nuclear fuel could be transferred to the international supervisory body under strict mechanism. Instead, Iran not willing to lay off its peaceful right. While in 1974, Iraq and Iran, that was the time of Raza Shah Pahlavi in Iran at that time. That was before Islamic Revolution. Iran and Iraq proposed actually the idea of Middle East nuclear weapon-free zone to the United Nations General Assembly, including dismantling Israel's nuclear sites, weapons and technologies, sign NPT and enter in nuclear weapon-free zone. So do you think right now, if we just foresee the future scenarios and what happened currently, do you not think that this 1974 proposal must have to be as a stencil, we just put it at the table and at the map of Middle East, because that is going to be a win-win situation for all.
Faisal, actually these nuclear weapons free zones is not only the idea. Practically speaking, realistically, there are many regions in the world right now as we speak who have came together, and they have already declared their regions as nuclear weapons free zones. So this is a kind of reality already in this one. We can see in the Latin America, in some European parts, and again in Southeast Asia. We can see these arrangements already intact, and the regions are cherishing the fruits of peace and stability altogether. Though there are some issues there, but their issues are dealt through dialogue, diplomacy. While answering this question, I need to refer back to actually the Professor Tughral Yamin was referring to one of the article of the NPT, which is Article 6 of the NPT. Under Article 6 of the NPT, all the nuclear weapon states which have detonated their nuclear devices before 1967, they became the de jure nuclear weapon states, recognized nuclear weapon states under the treaty. So they committed that they, in good faith, they would also disarm their nuclear weapons. So since till date, it has not happened. And Professor Mujaddid was talking about, more are good. It's actually the Kenneth Wall's theory of optimistic proliferation. More are better in terms of sustaining peace and stability. And the way you are referring that more would be worse and destructive is actually the Scott D. Sagan pessimist proliferation. So these are two theories, very fascinating theories, which talks about how peace and stability can be ensured, or how peace and stability can be disturbed while having nuclear weapons. So why states develop nuclear weapons and why states don't develop nuclear weapons, the debate is about that. But keeping in view your question over here, we all know that this is again strategic mistrust, because we talked about Libya. Libya, dismantled their nuclear weapons in 2003. But what happened in 2011? The regime was changed. Same is true with the Ukraine. They became part of that broader
and Libya civil war is still on.
Still going on. In 1994, Ukraine entered into Budapest Memorandum of Security guarantees. But in 2014, we have seen aggression on Ukraine, and now 2022, we have seen another one. So that's a kind of mistrust where Iran, if the offers have been given to Iran that there can be a multinational fuel bank or international supervisory body to manage its nuclear fuel cycle. So Iran is very reluctant to actually come into such kind of arrangement. So because it would become more dependent, so its decisions will be manipulated and exploited, and its fuel, if its fuel is not inside Iran, so that would be a kind of challenge to sovereignty.
Iran will never compromise, because
that,
that's why Iran turned down this offer.
Exactly.
So every sovereign country has the right to do it. Really.
I think what Iran should do to actually address these crises, Iran should develop more of its conventional deterrence. They should work on their air superiority.
Unfortunately, they lack in that area. In air defense and air force and all that, they lack that.
They should come up on this thing, and as Donald Trump has said that they are going to restart the talks on talks with Iran. So they should go with the talks. With
but I think so Iran heard your kind suggestion, because Iranian air chief is there in Beijing to have J-10C. So they have already heard that.
And they can go for the security umbrella. For example, they can sign a defense deal with, they have already done with Moscow. They can go with China, where nuclear question of Israel
can be addressed. But we can only give true suggestions to our brotherly countries.
But I want Iran to sustain as a peaceful country.
It's the sincere desire of every Pakistani, no doubt.
They should avoid going nuclear. They should continue their civil nuclear program, but they should avoid going nuclear,
But there is a sheer trust deficit, that it's in between the West and Iran, so that must have to be bridged. Thank you very much, Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid for being with us in the studios. Thank you very much, Dr. Tauqeer.
Thank you, sir.
For being with us here. And I also thank Dr. Tughral Yamin as well for his candid views. Viewers, it's loud and clear that stopping the nuclear proliferation through any kind of a military mean is a dangerous trend that must have to be stopped. Attacking on any nuclear site, whether it's civil or for military purpose, it's going to be very dangerous. IIUI has to assert itself. United Nations Security Council from the last many decades not asserting it, and now it's the lack on the behalf of International Atomic Energy Agency. So that is also the watchdog from the United Nations. It means the UN system is actually getting weaker. We have to focus on this one. Then Iran's nuclear facilities are largely intact, and thanks for that, because ultimately there was a fear of any sort of radioactive leak from these facilities, and that was going to be dangerous for not only for Iran, for the common people, but also for entire region. And then Iran never gone away from negotiations. We have witnessed right from 2013 to onward till the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action agreement in 2015, and then the indirect talks which were started back in April, May. Those talks were going on, but unfortunately illegitimate state of Israel jumped in and attacked Iran, and soon after the situation changed. Now this is also very important that NPT Article 4 gives a guarantee to every signatory to have the peaceful uses of the nuclear technologies, and Iran has the right to do that. But why Iran's right is going to be curbed for that? Why? This must have to be guaranteed. Otherwise, if Iran got out of NPT, this would be a tradition, and it would be a dangerous tradition. Then NPT is going to be null and void by most of the signatories who are already the part of it. Then, of course, Article 10 of this NPT allows any country to go out of this treaty, but that is not going to be the solution. So we have to go for the solutions, and the peaceful solutions through dialogue and negotiation rather than the military might. And then Israel and the United States actually they have to work for the peaceful purposes, and particularly the Israel, because Israel's covert nuclear program is actually a problem. The weapon stockpile, that is the problem. Out of the ambit of IAEA is the problem. So IAEA has to take action against Israel as well, make it accountable. Those Domino or all other nuclear sites must have to be inspected. Those weapons must have to be inspected, because Israel is the only country not a declared nuclear power. Then when we are talking about non-proliferation regimes, we have to respect the international law and international treaties. That is a must. And again, the Middle East must have to be declared as a nuclear weapon free zone, because only in that condition we will be able to have a peaceful Middle East. We have a Palestinian statehood that must have to be intact. And then a peaceful Middle East means a peaceful world. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.